suppress your anger. No, 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 no. Never suppress your anger. Feel it. Just don't act on it. No, 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 no. You have to express your anger, but the right way. No, 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 no. Just don't feel angry at all, ever, said the person with the crazy eyes. Then you don't have problems. Sure. So, you may have heard one or all of these things, but what should you really be doing with your anger? How come you even feel such... I mean, let's face it, if you were honest, you would not even call it anger. You'd probably call it rage. Why does it enrage you when a barista gets your order wrong? Why does it enrage you when you read an insulting comment on the internet? What is going on there? Why are you so freaking angry? And what can you do about it? How do you deal with your anger? What are you supposed to do with it? Hi, I'm Miriam and I teach emotional intelligence skills. Welcome to EI for Life. I used to call myself an angry person. I would literally say this out loud. I'm an angry person. I'm a very angry person. I used to love Spider-Man, but I always thought that the Hulk was actually my, spirit superhero. Because I could feel his rage. So where did it come from? What's all this about? When we are children, yeah, we're really going that far back. When we are children, we actually feel anger a lot because anger is a very healthy, super awesome emotion. It has two purposes. One, it gets your attention and tells you there's something wrong, pay attention right now. And number two, fix it. Do something about it. Now, what this doing something about it is changes over time. When we are babies, we scream our heads off because that's the only thing we really can do. We also maybe start, hitting around. When we are toddlers, we might punch somebody. Some children bite. The point is, there's something happening that we don't want to happen. And then we feel angry and then we act out our anger. Some children stomp their feet. All of this happens before we can even so much as say a single word. Now, this is actually a healthy process. This is what anger should look like. If a well-adjusted adult, I don't really like this phrase, but I don't know how else to say it. So if things hadn't gone differently, anger would look like this. You would feel the anger. Something would happen that would actually, trigger the anger. Usually a boundary violation, something you don't want to happen. So maybe somebody touches your arm. Then you would feel the anger and you would act on the anger. Maybe you say something, maybe you smack their hand away. Whatever it is, you act on the anger. And then, literally, the anger just disappears. That's the healthy process. I'm 40 years old. The first time I actually managed to go through this process exactly like this was 2 weeks ago. Why? Because we learn from a very early age on not to do that. We learn different processes. We learn that it's not okay to act out our anger. We are told off if we scream. We are told off if we stomp around. We are taught that we should definitely not hit others. But what we are not taught is what to do instead. What we learn from parents and other caregivers, teachers, kindergarten teachers, is usually the opposite of helpful. We learn some way of handling the anger, so which usually means suppressing it. Instead of expressing it the way it wants to be expressed, either verbally through screaming or saying something, or physically by walking it off, or what's the other one? Or it can even just be emotionally setting a boundary. No, I'm done with this. It can literally just be walking away. Whatever it is, however your anger naturally wants to be expressed, we do not learn how to do this in a socially acceptable manner. What we learn instead is how to suppress the anger. So many of us over the years learn alternative ways to handle anger. Some of us, I, for example, smiled. Sarcasm is a form of veiled anger. Smiling when you're angry and, pointing out, could you please fix this? This is anger suppressed. And what happens every single time you suppress your anger is you're actually storing it with a smile specifically in the face. I had a lot of anger stored in my face. And it's stored in a connective tissue in the body called the fascia. So every single time you feel anger and you do not let it fully flow through you, that means it has to be expressed in some way. It gets stored. And specific situations have specific anger pathways and specific anger expressions, anger actions. Every single time you don't allow yourself this anger action and do something else socially acceptable instead, you are suppressing the anger and it gets stored. So let's say you go to a coffee shop and the barista gets your order wrong. Now, what you feel in this moment, this could be a boundary violation for you. Let's say, for example, you were a middle child and you were very often ignored by your parents. They weren't listening to you. And you weren't allowed to say something. You weren't allowed to scream your head off. You weren't allowed to kick the table. You weren't allowed to stomp. You might not even have been allowed to stomp around the house in anger. So you have all this particular boundary issue, years of it, different versions of it with other adults, of this particular boundary, and it's stored. This anger is all stored in your body. So when this barista gets your order wrong, you don't think, they made a mistake, no big deal, it can happen. What happens is it triggers this boundary violation. This person didn't listen to me. And that triggers all of the old anger that's going up that pathway. So you do not feel anger, you feel accumulated anger, which very often feels like rage, especially if it's anger that comes from your childhood. Now, how does this anger want to be expressed? Maybe you feel like hitting the table. Maybe you feel like screaming at them. Maybe you feel like walking away. Whatever it is, there's a natural way for you to express this anger. But chances are you learn to handle it. You learn to say something in a stern voice. Now, if you were only dealing with this particular anger, this might actually work. But since you're not, you are dealing with rage, anger you've had since you were a kid. If that's all you do, the compensatory action you take is just pressing down, suppressing this anger once again. So what can you do? Because I'm not suggesting that you scream at baristas or hit countertops. I'm also not really suggesting that you stomp out of the building, because you just end up without a coffee. Not helpful. So what can you do? First things first, you gotta get your anger levels down. You want to practice emotional hygiene techniques every single day. So you want to have habits in place that help your nervous system release anger chemicals, that help your nervous system calm down and get to a calmer state, simply so you can actually think clearly. I call emotional hygiene techniques peace techniques, and I have a free course, link in the description, if you don't know where to start. So that's number one, because you got to be able to think clearly. Because the next thing you need to do is you need to figure out your particular patterns. You have patterns in place. Maybe it's something like the barista. They getting your order wrong. What is the real issue here? What is it that actually bothers you? Somebody might not have, they might not have listened to you. Is that the boundary that was violated? Is that what's going on here? Think back throughout your life. Do you often feel like people don't listen to you? Listen to the angry rants that go on in your head. They contain the clues, What is it that genuinely upsets you? Because there is a reason there. Don't look at the superficial stuff of the situation right in the moment. Look at the story you tell about it. This barista didn't listen. Nobody ever listens to me. There you go. that's your boundary that was crossed many, 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 many times throughout your life. And of course it made you angry. And of course the anger accumulated. And of course this anger needs to be expressed. Then this brings us to the next part. How does this particular anger want to be expressed? It might be through your voice. You might want to say something. It might be through physical energy. You might have to move in some way. This doesn't mean you have to punch a pillow. It means you can't just go for a walk. You could even dance. You just need to move in some way. So when you feel safe, when you are in a safe space, I'm not saying in that particular situation. I mean, when you are safe later on, you want to remember what this anger felt like, and you want to give it the opportunity to move out of you. So go for a walk if that's how it wants to be expressed. If you need to speak it, you do not actually have to say words. You do not have to rant. Just allow yourself to growl. Seriously, yeah. Scream into a pillow if you want. You can rant if you feel that's helpful, but usually telling the story just keeps you being angry. So my tip is go with the growling and the screaming. Maybe you never really allowed yourself to show your anger in your face. That was my big one. So maybe you never allowed yourself to really glare. Just glare into space for minutes at a time. Just glare into space. And every single time you do that, you release a little bit of the stored anger. Now, chances are you have many, many, many patterns around anger, not just one. And you've accumulated lots of anger all throughout your life. So give yourself time and space. Work on it little by little. And in the moment, when you really do feel the anger, try to remind yourself that, okay, this is the pattern. I'm feeling rage right now. This is not entirely about the barista. They're just triggering an old pattern. All good. Then feel how the anger wants to be expressed. And if you can, try to express it in a version of it. So if it needs to be expressed through your mouth, you just say something, but don't scream. Just say, but you might want to practice really saying something. Especially if you're the kind of person who then goes with the wrong order because you don't dare say something. If it's your face, you don't have to glare at the person, but you could practice not smiling. That's already, not using the old suppression pattern. That's already a win. And then as soon as you feel safe, you let the anger out. The more often you do this, the easier it gets. And once you understand that there's this pattern, and this is why you feel so enraged all the time, and that no, there's nothing wrong with you. You were just never shown how to deal with it properly. You were never shown that, anger is there to be expressed, and if it doesn't get expressed in the way it needs to be expressed, it accumulates in your body, and then it just goes on top of each other. Now you know. So, as always, take it one step at a time. First, start with lowering those anger levels as much as you possibly can with emotional hygiene techniques. Then find the patterns and express the anger in a safe, quiet environment. You can absolutely do this. I know that because I did. And if I can do it, so can you. All right. Have a great day.